a time when drivers, owner-drivers and small fleet owners are crying out for their voices to be heard, seeking improved operating conditions, less regulations, reduced fines and sustainable changes in regulations to provide a fair go for all concerned, it's good to know that someone is actually doing something about it. Our special guest on the road this week has not only identified these needs, but has launched a new industry group that will lobby government with a united voice that they simply won't be able to ignore. A long-time truckie and compliance expert with extensive experience in enforcement and transport policy, our guest is bringing a strong and united voice to those who need and deserve to be heard. Highly respected for her enthusiastic never-say-die commitment to the cause, it's my pleasure today to introduce to you Roxaane Mysko. Hi Roxy, good morning. Welcome to On the Road.
Thank you, Andy. It's great to be here.
Before we dive into the details of your newly formed United Transport Group, for those who might not be fully familiar with your background, maybe they've been under a rock, or can you share with us a little of your history and experience with the industry? I know you're a trucker yourself. You've been on the road a lot, driving all sorts of trucks of different sizes.
Yep.
You've been involved in various levels of enforcement and compliance and so on, but just a bit of your background.
Okay, sure. So I've actually grown up in the transport industry. My own parents had a business running Adelaide to Cairns, so a lot of hard yards. They owned a few trucks and subcontractors. And so I was out there driving at the age of about 14 years old.
Wow.
So road training out there. And in the recent years, I've actually been in government for the last 15 to 20 years. And recently I've done some projects for the new legislation for the Department of Agriculture in the task force. Mm-hmm. I've been in Home Affairs for the Department of Immigration and Australian Border Force, doing projects across onshore and offshore and change and risk mitigation.
Right.
I've worked in the RMS for 18 odd months, 2 years across the heavy vehicle enforcement. And in that role, I was actually in the chain of responsibility as the consignor for the testing of the legislation. So I have huge knowledge of COR, and I'm a strong believer that the intent of COR is not actually working well for industry. And I'll give you a little example of that.
Sure.
Under the COR, I think there's been about 37 prosecutions for consignors and consignees. And we all know that there's been a huge amount of prosecutions in transport, being drivers and transport companies. Of recent, when I'd had enough of working inside the government and the bureaucracy, I've been out driving triple road trains Adelaide to Darwin and running road trains across the paddock to Perth. So I completely understand how hard everybody works in transport and actually need a fair go.
Absolutely. Now, if we touch a little bit on the United Transport Group, there's been a few within the industry that have been saying there are already so many different industry lobby groups, and there's a call for a real unity. This is obviously part of what's led you to forming this specialist group. What were the actual contributing factors that led you to take on this mammoth task?
It is mammoth, and it's not for the faint-hearted. I've got the resilience and I've got the passion and I've got the knowledge how to drive this change into government. But my reason for doing this is I'm sick of watching industry getting flogged with fines and complex enforcement. So I started the United Transport Group. But I think the real difference with us is to the other organisations is that we're a national group. I've got inside of separated industry Pacific groups, not one model fits all, but all of those groups, multiple of them will have some of the same high level issues and some will have issues within their sector like general freight, oversize, overmass, the stockies, the primary production. I mean, they all have different pressure points and unique within themselves within the transport sector.
Obviously, there's some well-known names you mentioned there, and there's a real diversity of experience amongst them, isn't there?
There is, absolutely. And we have Darren as well from Tasmania. And so Tasmania, I was really surprised the volume of trucks that are going on the boats to and fro from Tasmania. And he'll be a massive asset to the team as well, working with Tasmania.
Brilliant.
Which is quite unusual, in some of the groups to pull in every jurisdiction. Most of them are state or jurisdiction focused, whereas we will be doing all of that plus industry sectors.
Yeah, so truly national.
Truly national, yeah.
Yeah. Now, I know it's a big question, but in a nutshell, because we've obviously only got a half-hour show.
Yeah.
But what are the real aims and goals of the United Transport Group?
Okay. So the first aim is that I'm very aware, and I've done my numbers and research on this, and so I can speak absolutely definite. 80% of the transport sector aren't in any union or other association. That is absolutely a huge gap for those people to have a voice.
It is.
And the whole intention of this is to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to give us their views. It's not what I think or what the board think. It's a collective. So we'll be doing surveys. Our members will have a really strong input into that. Some of the goals that I would like to see come out of it is that if someone's approved on a route to have a B triple, then that should be open to everybody, providing obviously their truck is rated. If it's 115 tonne rated and they can pull a road train, someone else has gone in and paid for that engineering on the road, then why shouldn't all of the transport sector get that opportunity to use it? So that's one thing. Another thing is the fatigue. Is the fatigue really working? And I have a view on it, but I don't want to actually push my view. This will be about 80% that join us. And obviously in the industry specific groups, they'll be sitting in those groups speaking amongst themselves and with myself. They'll sit in there for, I would think, about 8 to 12 weeks, pick out the top 5 to 8 issues within each sector. I will then get them pulled up to the board level. We'll then analyse it. And there could be 3 or 4 things that go across all those sectors that would go, okay, there's the priorities. Should we have standard hours, or should we be looking at just having BFM and AFM because it's a big country? So if someone's on standard hours and they've got 12 hours and they're in roadworks or some issue and they need to go over an hour to get home or to get to a depot, they cop a major fine. So is that okay? No, it isn't. Yeah.
Now, early feedback's been showing that there's been a huge interest from right across the industry in the group's formation. What sort of support have you been receiving thus far from within the industry?
Absolutely huge. And I'm actually very, very happy to say it's been overwhelming. It's extremely exciting. We've actually already got people putting their hands up to sit in my industry-specific groups to help. I have had so many messages, how can I help, how can I help? High end of membership at this stage, high numbers, is coming from owner-operators.
Right.
We've also got a lot of drivers that have been signing up. We've got other groups from the 2 to 5. They've been a fairly heavy membership jump in. We've also got other ones sitting there in discussion with 40 trucks, 80 trucks, 35 trucks, 50 trucks, 100 trucks. I personally think this is a very unique group because we are all able to jump in a truck and go driving. The other people in the team own trucks, and I think we offer that really strong grassroots and understanding.
That sounds phenomenal, that response. Obviously, Roxy, for the United Transport Group to be truly successful in achieving its goals, you'll be looking for a lot of grassroots input from all levels of the industry. Yep. How do you propose to get everyone involved right from the start? You talked about surveys and things.
So we'll be doing a lot of questionnaires, a lot of surveys with members. Like I said, they'll be given the opportunity to actually sit in those industry-specific groups. We've actually had a lot of young drivers actually already contacting us with excitement. So we're pretty much ready to stand up that young group and have that definite conversation around how can we help younger people get into the industry. So We are really focused on actually hearing everyone's voice. And there is one survey that I'm a little bit passionate about that we will put into place. Nobody in the country has ever really looked at the volume of fines that the transport industry has copped compared to other industry sectors.
Yeah.
And I can speak clearly from my government work. I've been in health and aged care. I've been in border force and immigration, ag department. So I can speak absolutely with 100% of knowledge. Those industry sectors don't cop the fines. So one of the surveys I'm looking at putting in is to get a gauge on how many fines have actually occurred over the last 5 years. And I think everyone will be absolutely shocked when we can get those results in. Truckies have had Spurs accounts for years, but no other industry sector.
I think you're right. I think it's going to be phenomenal, the numbers that come through. Yeah. So for drivers and fleet owners listening at the moment, they're interested and they want to get involved, which I'm sure there'll be a lot that do. How do they go about coming on board with the United Transport Group? What do they need to do?
All they need to do is go on our website, go in to join us, do their membership. It's $100 membership, and that's very, very cheap compared to other costs of memberships. And we've made it that way because we actually aren't here to make a heap of money or anything like that. It's actually about getting the united voice. And then anyone with fleets of trucks, we're asking them to join up, give me a ring. My phone number is on the website. I'm happy to answer any questions to any members, whether it be driver, owner operators, fleet operators. Certainly open to everyone's view, and it is about us as an industry. And that 80% to actually be heard, to actually push the changes they want. And without them joining, nothing will ever change. So it ends up that the truckies, everyone says, oh, they're whingers. I don't see any other industry sectors working 14 hours a day. And I don't see any other industry sectors copping fines. Like some of the stories that we're getting are unbelievable. Like a driver copped a $700 fine for not ticking a box in his work diary for standard BFM or AFM. I mean, who wants to go home with half their pay packet? I mean, that's just out of control.
It is.
You know, and they're the things that we need to pick first to push into government and look at the low-hanging fruit that we can actually change fast by the tick of a pen inside government. And I know that's the fact because I've been inside there. And it is that straightforward with simple regulations.
Yeah. So that website, what's the web address for that, Roxy?
Right, it's www.unitedtransportgroup.com.au, and like I said, we are certainly happy to speak to any of you.
Wonderful. Well, Roxy, I think I can speak on behalf of everyone in the industry when I say we're all really excited to see the group come together, and we'd all wish you and your team every success as you move forward with this wonderful innovation. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your super busy schedule to chat with us on the road today.
Thank you very much, Andy. Greatly appreciated. And I think my main goal is if I can help change industry after watching it for over a decade and more, having no changes, we are successful.
And I think it will be too. Again, thank you. Cheers, Roxy.
Thank you, Andy. Bye-bye.